I'm 79 years old now. My hands shake a little when I pour my morning tea. My pace is slower. My voice isn't as loud as it once was. But my mind is calm in a way it never was when I was young. And that calm didn't come from money alone. It came from time, mistakes, patience, and lessons that only reveal themselves after decades of living. People look at me now and assume I was always rich. They imagine fast success, lucky breaks, secret tricks. They're wrong. What I had most of my life was discipline, boredom, and a long view most people never learn to take. Let me tell you what I learned. Wealth is built quietly, not loudly. When I was young, I watched men who wanted to look rich more than they wanted to be rich. Loud cars, loud opinions, loud spending. They needed to be seen. I didn't. I learned early that attention is expensive. Real wealth doesn't announce itself. It compounds quietly, behind closed doors, while everyone else is trying to impress strangers. The richest people I know don't chase applause. They chase leverage. They let time do the talking. Ownership beats income every time. I worked jobs. We all do. Jobs pay bills, but ownership builds freedom. The moment I stopped asking, "How much does this pay?" and started asking, "What do I own at the end of this?" everything changed. Businesses, equity, property, shares, assets that worked while I slept. Control the asset or you'll spend your life inside someone else's system. Patience is a financial weapon. For years, nothing seemed to happen. That's the part nobody shows you. No headlines, no praise. Just slow, invisible progress. Compounding is boring before it's impressive. Most people quit right before the curve bends upward. They mistake silence for failure. I didn't. I stayed. And time rewarded me. Boring businesses make serious money. I never chased excitement. I chased reliability, plumbing, construction, logistics, real estate, services. The kinds of businesses people laugh at, until they realize they've been paying them every month for decades. Unsexy industries have less competition and steady cash flow. Old wealth loves dull profits. Drama is for people who don't understand numbers. Reputation is more valuable than cash. I lost money before. I never lost my word. One reputation lasts longer than one deal. Banks don't lend to spreadsheets. They lend to people. Partners don't trust numbers. They trust character. A bad reputation doesn't just close opportunities. It closes access. And access is everything. Leverage is powerful and dangerous. Debt is a tool, like fire. It can cook your food or burn your house down. Smart debt builds wealth. Reckless debt destroys it. Real estate worked for me because tenants paid down my loans. But I watched men lose decades overnight by reaching too far. Too much leverage doesn't warn you. It wipes you out quietly. Spend less than you earn, always. This sounds simple, almost insulting. Yet most never do it. Wealth isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep and invest. Every raise tempts you to upgrade your life instead of your future. Lifestyle inflation is the most polite prison there is. Comfortable, endless, expensive. Invest consistently, not emotionally. I invested when markets were boring, when headlines were quiet, monthly, yearly, automatically. I didn't panic. I didn't chase trends. I didn't gamble. Time in the market beats timing the market, not because it's clever, but because it removes emotion. Emotion is expensive. Mentors compress time. I learned from people ahead of me, not motivational speakers, real practitioners, men who had already paid the price. A mentor doesn't make you rich. He makes you avoid stupid mistakes. And the mistakes you don't make often matter more than the wins you do. No mentor means a slow, painful education. Cash flow first, luxury later. I didn't reward myself early. I built first. Assets first, freedom first, enjoyment later. I watched people buy toys before buying time. They looked successful but stayed trapped. Old wealth buys mornings without alarms, days without bosses, peace without permission. Networks are invisible assets. Opportunities didn't come from resumes. They came from rooms, from trust built over years, from favors returned slowly. The right conversation at the right table changed my life more than hard work ever did. Your network quietly determines your ceiling. Consistency beats talent. I wasn't the smartest man in the room. I was the most persistent. Showing up daily beats raw intelligence. Small actions done for decades outperform bursts of brilliance. Wealth rewards endurance, not intensity. Don't confuse motion with progress. Busy is not productive. I learned to do fewer things better, to say no more than yes. Chaos feels like effort, but simplicity scales. Old wealth moves slowly because it knows where it's going. Think in decades, not months. I planned my life in 10-year blocks, not quarters, not weeks. Short-term thinking creates stress. Long-term thinking creates calm dominance. When you know where you're going, you don't panic when the road gets quiet. Money is a tool, not the goal. Money without purpose is hollow. I've seen rich men miserable because they built wealth without meaning. Wealth is for freedom, for family, for control of time, not for ego, not for noise. Old wealth optimizes life, not image. Failure is data, not identity. I failed many times. I just didn't live there emotionally. Failure taught me. Then I moved on, quickly. Wealthy people don't romanticize failure. They extract lessons and continue. Location and environment matter. Being around ambitious people expands your vision. Staying in stagnant places shrinks it. Geography can accelerate you or trap you. I moved when I outgrew my surroundings. Comfort is expensive when it limits your view. Faith, values, and discipline anchor wealth. Wealth without grounding collapses under pressure. Discipline protects success. Values guide decisions when money clouds judgment. I held on to mine when it would have been easy not to. That's why my wealth lasted. You don't need to be special, just early and consistent. I wasn't extraordinary in any way people like to celebrate. I didn't have rare talent, insider knowledge, or a dramatic breakthrough moment. I simply began before most people thought it mattered. While others waited for confidence, clarity, or permission, I showed up quietly and started. Early efforts look small, almost embarrassing, but that is exactly why they work. No one is watching yet. No one is judging. You are free to build without pressure. I stayed consistent when it felt pointless, when results were invisible, when effort seemed to disappear into thin air. Consistency is boring, and that's why it's powerful. Most people can sprint for motivation, but very few can walk patiently for years. I treated progress like a routine, not a performance. Some days were strong, some weak, but I never stopped returning. That repetition, not intensity, carried me forward. Time is the unfair advantage no one respects when they have it. When you're young, time feels endless, so it gets wasted. When you're older, you finally understand its value, but there's less of it left to deploy. Ordinary habits, repeated over long periods, quietly compound in the background. One decision means nothing. 10,000 similar decisions shape a life. That's how extraordinary outcomes are built, not loudly, but inevitably. And finally, the real goal was never fame. Fame is noisy, fragile, and hungry. It demands constant feeding and gives very little back. Attention fades. Applause moves on. I watched people chase recognition their entire lives, only to end up owned by it. Their schedules weren't theirs. Their peace wasn't stable. Their worth depended on being seen. That was never the prize. The goal was freedom. Freedom from alarms that steal your mornings. Freedom from bosses who rent your time and drain your energy. Freedom from the quiet panic of living one emergency away from collapse. Real wealth is not what you buy. It's what you no longer have to tolerate. It's control over your day, your pace, your choices. It's the ability to say no without explaining yourself. That's what old rich people actually value. Not applause, not attention, not being impressive. They value quiet mornings, slow coffee, decisions made without fear, days that belong to them. When you understand that, your priorities change. You stop chasing what looks successful and start building what feels peaceful. And that's when you finally get rich in the way that matters. At 79, I don't count what I own anymore. I count what I no longer have to do. And that, more than any number, tells me I did something right.